What's up, you guys, and welcome back to Kaori's Corner. Remember, it's always suggested by you, reviewed by me, and one of the suggestions that I got was this show on Netflix. It is a Swedish drama, about 6 episodes, and it's called A Nearly Normal Family. Now, when I tell you this suggestion, I was like, okay. I had got it suggested to me a while ago, and I kind of just put it on the list. So there's like a huge list of things that get suggested to me, of course, but I hadn't looked at that list in like a really long time. So when I was just randomly scrolling through Netflix to find something to watch, I stumbled upon it, and I was like, that name sounds really familiar. Let me just go ahead and turn this on. Little did I know that I would be fucking surprised by how amazing this show was. So again, it's about 6 episodes, and it's about a girl named Stella who is arrested for the murder of 32-year-old entrepreneur Christopher Olsen. Now, it is not a question of whether or not she did it, because 100% she did. And you can actually tell by towards the end of the first episode, leaning into the second episode, that she definitely did it. But the important part of it is why. The why is the most important part of the situation, because of course you shouldn't advocate for the murder of somebody unless they kind of deserved it. And to be perfectly honest, Christopher Olsen definitely did. But we will get into that. So again, Stella is arrested for the murder of Christopher Olsen and basically leaving him to bleed to death in a park. And the story comes in kind of like 3 different perspectives. It's from the perspective of Stella, who feels neglected and ignored by her parents after she is sexually assaulted when she is 14. Yes, when she's 14, because these events take place like 15, or not 15, but 5 years later, when she turns 19. You heard me. 19 years old, 32-year-old. Right. Continuing on. So she goes to a handball camp with her best friend Amina, and she is instantly attracted to one of the coaches. And now she is the one who makes the advance on the coach to start. So she invites him to go swimming with her. Amina doesn't really feel like it's kind of appropriate, but of course Amina doesn't really say anything. Amina wanted to stay in their cabin and watch a movie, whatever, what have you. And then there's people outside where like they're swimming at, so they go inside of like one of the sheds that's right there, and there's like already a bed in there, so that's already kind of weird. And she does tell him to stop, but of course he does not, and she gets sent home, and I believe he got sent home as well. Then of course her mother is a lawyer and her dad is a priest, and her mother immediately takes the lawyer role. She does not take the mom role. She does not take like a caring person role. She immediately goes to the legal side of things and asks her to explain what happened in like grave detail so that they could decide whether or not they were going to press charges. The father, however, is like a doting father, kind of like smothering like, and again, this is from her point of view, and this is how she's viewing her parents. And he's like instantly, like when she tells him in the car what was going on, and he's trying to get her to tell what happened, but he's also trying to be caring because of course this is a sensitive subject and she can't remember. Obviously she's traumatized, so she can't remember too many details of what happened. She can't remember if she was fighting back hard enough, things like that. And her mother just is like, we're not going to win this in a court of law, so we're just not going to go to the cops. What are you talking about? But this also just kind of sheds light on a lot of things when it comes to people. I'm not even going to just say just women, but when people are victims of sexual assault, and are they going to be believed or not? And immediately it's, are they going to be believed in a court of law? And are they going to be believed in a court of public opinion? That's always how it goes. With that being said, she moves forward. We're going forward 5 years later, and she has expressed to both of her parents that she wants to go traveling. And her best friend Amina actually goes to school. She's in college, and she wants to go traveling the very next year. So she's asked for money for that. Her father gets her a moped instead, and she's feeling like ever since that day, they don't listen to her. And it's very evident that they kind of don't. And even, bless you, and even when this situation happened, when she got arrested and the police were interrogating her mother to, you know, did you see your daughter before she left? What did she have on? She definitely saw her daughter before she left. Was she paying attention to her daughter? No, because she couldn't even actually tell the police officer what her daughter was wearing. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I could not leave the house without my parents knowing what the hell I had on, just in case something happened to me. Come on. Anyway, so her and Amina's friendship, they are still best friends, of course, and Amina decides to take her out for her birthday, but Amina ends up leaving her because her college friends, who are really snobby, by the way, show up at the club that they're at and start talking about fucking books. Because that's what you do at a club, is talk about, look at the textbook I got for class. And so, you know, she tells her, hey, I'm gonna go just like take a wander around, won't be a minute. And Amina does not ever actually, you know, ask where she's at, doesn't text her or anything because she's busy with her college people. And that's when she ends up running into Christopher Olsen, who takes her to Copenhagen and basically shows her a really fun ass time for her birthday. Long story short, they get together, and he kind of treats her like an adult. It's never really clear if he knows her exact age. He does call her childish a few times because when she calls Amina her best friend, he's like, you sound 14 when you say that. And then another time where she comes to his house unannounced with breakfast bagels, and he acts all weird as fuck and he's like, you're not 14, like go the fuck away type shit. And he gets like really, really weird on her. So whether or not he knows that she's 19, I don't know. I think that he knew that she was 19 and he just didn't give a fuck. And he tells his friends about her and all kinds of stuff like that. And then it actually turns out that he is like super crazy jealous and tries to make out like his ex, who he also sexually assaulted, is super crazy jealous. And she's actually not. She tries to warn Stella, but Stella then starts to see the signs for herself. And she feels like the prosecutor tried to make her feel like she was getting jealous because Amina was spending time with him, when that literally was not the case. Amina was uncomfortable around him, and you could very much see it on Amina's face. And when they were supposed to meet this very last time before the murder happened, he drugs and sexually assaults Amina, and she kills him. Okay? Now, that is all like revealed later, but from her perspective, she is having the time of her life with this super hot guy, and she is just like basically living her best life. And then she starts seeing the signs of this super crazy guy, and she's just like, what the fuck is going on? From the father's perspective, he's kind of losing touch with her, and he's trying to like, you know, get her back as much as he can, like cooking dinner and all of the other stuff. When she gets arrested, he even goes so far as to delete the text messages, even though they can pull your text messages, so deleting them from your phone is weird and dumb. But he goes and deletes the text messages that he sent her while she was out that went unanswered. And this was like the night of the murder, essentially. And because he is the one who discovers her downstairs, like she goes downstairs to the basement where the sauna is, and there's like a second shower, and she goes down there to take a shower, and he discovers her down there after staying up late waiting for her to come home. And after she gets arrested, he deletes those text messages before she came home. And when the police officer's like, oh, what time did she come home? He's like, 11:55. She came over at 11:55. So when the prosecutor then says, like, we pulled your text messages and you sent 2 text messages after 12 o'clock, he's like, yeah, and they didn't get delivered till later. So, I mean, you know, like, the network fucking sucks. So sometimes they don't get delivered till later. Okay, dad, writing for your daughter, period. top of how we are seeing life around his daughter through his eyes, we're also seeing that he is completely oblivious to the fact that his wife is having an affair with one of her old colleagues. And when he finally does find out, it is obviously very, very devastating, but they're trying to keep a brave face. He's not doing good with this situation at all, because while she is in prison waiting trial, they are not allowed to see her. They can't see her, they can't talk to her. So that is also weighing on him, because he wants to make sure that she's okay. And that was one of the things that I did kind of like, I thought was interesting, because when she does ask the officer that comes to her, that's assigned to her room, she doesn't ask to talk to her parents. She asks to use his phone to call Amina, so that Amina knows that she's okay. So she is more concerned about her best friend than anything else. Okay? So, again, keep in mind, the end situation is she killed Christopher Olsen because he sexually assaulted Amina. And she essentially in that moment got PTSD from when she was sexually assaulted when she was 14 and just lost it. Anyway, so then going forward with the story, we see what happens from the mother's side. Again, the mother is an ex-lawyer turned professor, and she is having an affair, right? And when she is found out to be having an affair, she tries to blame her husband. She's like, you could have stopped it if you knew, and I'm unhappy and I have to stay drunk all the time because you're fucking boring, is essentially what she said. Ma'am, please. Anyway, so when she finds out that her daughter has been arrested, she asks her old colleague to represent her daughter, because obviously she's not going to do it, she can't. And I'm not gonna lie, she is jumping through all kinds of hoops for her daughter. She goes into her daughter's room when she finds out that the police are on their way with a search warrant to search the house. She goes into her daughter's room, finds her daughter's bloody clothes from that night, and puts them in her purse. When the police get there, and she finds her phone too, and gets her phone and takes her phone with her as well. And her phone is dead, mind you, okay? So the police show up and they're like, yeah, you know the drill. We have to search the house, blah, blah, blah. Then she's like, go ahead. And they put her in the back of the police car to take her to the police station. And she has literal evidence. Are you okay? Ma'am, stop it. She has literal bloody evidence in her bag. When she finally... Now, while she is at the police station, she does get a call or two about her father's care home. And after she ends up leaving the police station to go to the care home, and mind you, she still has the bloody clothes and cell phone. She goes to her father's care home and puts the bloody clothes and cell phone in the drawer and locks it in her father's room. Okay. So then she ends up trying to talk to Amina, because Amina gave up a statement to the police, and she's like trying to talk to Amina and see what happened. And she figures out, of course, that Amina is lying about what happened, because Amina is trying to protect Stella. So she ends up going to the prosecutor's office because her husband had a run-in with the prosecutor and kind of went off on her, and you can't do that because it could be detrimental to the case. So she tries to go to the prosecutor's office to apologize. Well, her friend that works at the prosecutor's office is like, oh yeah, that's totally fine, you can come up here and we can talk. And she's like, okay, cool. So she goes up there and and she talks to her. She's like, yeah, no, you're fine, I can totally talk to her as soon as she comes in. Great. So she gets ready to leave, but she sneaks into the prosecutor's office and takes pictures of the evidence that was found, where there's evidence found of another person that was inside of Christopher Olsen's apartment, or his flat. Now, after she finds out that it was Amina that was actually in there. She tries to press Amina, and she crosses the line when she starts going through stuff in Amina's room and going over to her house as a pretext, I need comfort, but really I'm trying to spy on your daughter type shit. And she's accusing Amina of lying, but Amina is lying. So Amina comes to her and tells her exactly what happened. And she tells Amina, do not tell anybody, and I mean anybody, no police, no prosecutor, no defense attorney, nobody. Don't tell anybody this until the day of trial. Okay? So, we have a couple of sessions of psychology sessions with Stella and the psychologist, and she continuously blames herself for the situation that happened when she was 14. Like, baby, you were a child, okay? You may have been a little flirty and forward, but the moment that you said stop, it should have stopped. Period, point blank. And that's what the psychologist was trying to get her to see. When she finally broke down, I cried, because I'm like, girl, I feel you. So continuing forward, we actually get to the trial. The prosecutor tries to paint her as this like super violent person, and she was jealous of her best friend and whatnot. When they finally call Amina in, Amina reveals this huge thing about the fact that she saw Christopher Olsen that night. She was drugged, taken back to his apartment, and sexually assaulted, and that anybody could have did it. And she even goes so far as to describe the vase that she knocked over when she ran out. Now, the prosecution has presented no evidence that Stella did this. None whatsoever. They have the word of somebody who heard Christopher Olsen screaming. They don't have the clothes. They don't have the murder weapon. They don't have anything. And about that murder weapon, Amina told Stella's mom, Ulrika, where the murder weapon was. She went to go get it, and she took it to her father's care home and went and pretended to wash his dishes, washed the knife off, and put it in the drawer at the care home, and then took her clothes, burned them on a grill somewhere out in the middle of nowhere where people like go camping, and then took her cell phone, divided, like broke it in half, the battery and then the actual phone, and threw both of them in the water. Yes, ma'am, mom. So after Amina drops this huge bombshell, even her parents didn't know. Her parents are so upset, but Ulrika doesn't budge. And Adam, her father, looks at her and he's just like, so when they go have the conversation during deliberation, he's like, so you knew? She was like, I did. And she was like, do you even want to know? And he was like, I don't. And that was smart on his behalf. You do not want to know. So of course she is acquitted of the crime, because there's no evidence. The only thing that they had was the word of the neighbor who heard Olsen screaming out in the park. And then he saw Stella there a couple of times, and then a shoe print out in the back that you're assuming belonged to Stella, but literally could have belonged to anybody who had tennis shoes on in that area. Be serious. So they were just like, y'all haven't given us anything. There is no evidence. There's no murder weapon. There's no clothes. There's no nothing. Y'all are just assuming that it was her because she was walking in the park. Shut the fuck up. So, of course, she's acquitted. She hugs her parents because her parents come over there. As soon as she sees Amina, Amina came in absolutely 100% fucking clutch. Because when she said that she told Christopher Olsen that she was not attracted to him, the prosecutor's face, she was pissed. She was like, wait, what? Exactly. Try again. What I like about this show is that it got straight to the fucking point. There was no runaround. We didn't have to have 3 different seasons telling 3 different perspectives of the exact same story with 20 episodes each to finally get to the fact that she's the one who did it, even though you can tell from the beginning of the story that she is. We didn't have to have none of that. They got 6 episodes in, 6 episodes out. They're like, this is what happened, this is what happened, this is what happened, this is what happened, and why. We don't have to have a follow-up season about if they're going to get divorced. We don't have to have none of that. She ends up going on her trip and having a great time. She goes to a church to try to get forgiveness for what happened, and that's it, and that's that. And she actually ended up killing him outside after saving Amina. She ended up killing him outside because he chased them outside with a knife and tried to kill them, and she stabbed him. And then of course the PTSD kicked in, she went blind rage, and that was the end of that. 10s across the board for this fucking amazing ass show. And if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it, because it's a straight to the point story. The acting was great, the characters were great. Ulrika literally pissed me off until she went super mom and started committing crimes in order to save her daughter. You know what I'm saying? So, and of course, that is it for this episode of Kaori's Corner. Remember, it's always suggested by you, reviewed by me.